Hello and welcome to Mr. Davis's math class. This is Algebra 2, Lesson 4-7. We're going to start talking about the quadratic formula. Hopefully you paused and you've done the warm-up already, and you've got some foreshadowing happening for this lesson. We have vocab, and really today we're only talking about one thing, and that's the quadratic formula, the title of this lesson. The quadratic formula is just an algebraic way to find zeros. There's no graphing involved, no factoring. It's a formula. So this is the formula. It needs to be in the notebooks, which is x equals opposite of b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And we'll have some examples coming up showing us how to use that. But as you can see there, it's just a formula. We just plug in numbers and we'll get two answers out, both being the zeros of our functions. The reason why we get two answers out, the plus or minus sign. Okay. So, problem like this, we have 2x squared minus x equals 4, and we want to use the quadratic formula. Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to put it in standard form, which means we need to have 0 on the outside. We currently have 4. We can get 0 by minusing 4 from both sides. 2x squared minus x minus 4 equals 0. Now we're in standard form. And to use the quadratic formula, we need to do a few things. First off, let's write down what each part is. Our a is 2. Our b, -1. And our c is -4 from the end. Well, good. Now that we know what our a, b, and c are, we need to think about plugging that into the quadratic formula. And hopefully we haven't forgotten from the last slide, but it's x equals opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And one of the hardest things about the quadratic formula is remembering exactly what it is. But make sure you put it in your notes somewhere where you can look at it very easily. All right. Now let's plug everything in. Okay, so we're going to have x equals opposite of b. Well, that's if b is a -1, the opposite of that's a +1. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a is 2, times c is -4. Extend that. All over 2 times a, which is 2 times 2. Now it's just time to do some simplifying. 1 plus or minus, inside the square root here, -1 squared is just 1 minus 4 times 2 times a -4 is -32. All over 2 times 2 is 4. We're not quite done simplifying. We can see that inside the square root sign, we get a plus sign there, giving square root of 33 over 4. And that looks like a pretty good answer here. We have a square root sign in there, but remember that just means that it's it hasn't been rounded at all. So we can leave it as this. I'm okay with this type of answer. The book might break the answers into x equals 1 plus square root of 33 over 4, and x equals 1 minus square root of 33 over 4. So it might break it in like that. If we're dealing with a word problem, we might want to make those a decimal approximation. But for standard problems, we can leave it into exact form. Okay, let's try again with this one. This one's already in standard form. Okay, it does not need to be changed. Let's remind ourselves it's x equals opposite of b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so we have the general form. Now we're going to write down what our a is 1, b 6, C is 9. Okay, let's plug this in, plug the A, B's, and C's into the general form. Okay, opposite of B, well, it's going to be opposite of 6 plus or minus square root of 6 squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times A. Time to do our simplifying. And we're going to do the simplifying underneath the square root sign. So we get 6 squared is 36, minus 4 times 1 times 9 is 36, all over 2. Well, this is going to give me plus or minus square root of 0. Well, the square root of 0 is 0, and 0 does not change. It does not change an answer at all. So really all we're left with is negative 6 over 2, which we're going to call negative 3. This one only has 1 0 at negative 3. Here's 2 for you to try. Please hit pause now and try them. Okay, if you need help, always refer back to earlier in the video when we did example 1. Okay, problem 2, talking about a quadratic equation that models the profit of a band which is selling CDs. And they want to know what is the least amount in dollars we can charge for a CD and make a profit, $200. Okay? Well, let's take the original equation that they gave us, which is here. I'm just going to rewrite it down here, my own handwriting. Plus 48x minus 300. Okay? And now let's plug in what they tell us. They tell us a profit of 200. Well, profit's going to go over on the P side. Now we have everything plugged in. Now we need to think, since we only have the x variables of this quadratic, right? We don't have a p, we don't have a y, or whatever that second variable is. All we have is the one variable, right? All we have is this x variable. When we only have that one quadratic variable, we can set it up into and use the quadratic formula. We need to get it in standard form first, which means I'm going to minus 200. Minus 200 gives me 0 is equal to negative x squared plus 48x minus 500. All right, let's type in our A, B, C. A is negative 1, B is 48, C is negative 500. And I'm going to go ahead and remind ourselves one last time of what the quadratic formula is, which is x equals opposite of b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And now let's plug in our actual numbers instead of the general form. Opposite of b, negative 48, plus or minus square root of b squared, which is going to be 48 squared minus 4 times a times c. All over 2 times a. Okay. So now it's time, looks like we've got everything in right. Now it's time to simplify. Okay. So let's try to do as much simplification as we can. X equals opposite of 48, and we always start simplifying inside the quadratic. So 48 squared, well, that's going to be a decent sized number, which is 2304 minus. Now, if I look here, I've got 1, 2, 3 minus signs, which tells me that my final answer is going to have a minus sign. 2 of those minus signs will make a plus sign. The third one will leave it as a minus. 4 times 500 will be, it looks like 2,000. all over negative 2. All right, let's do a little bit more simplifying. Plus or minus square root of, it looks like 304. Okay? And at this point, if we were doing a regular book problem, we'd probably call this good. I don't think 304, it doesn't come out to a nice number. We'd probably call this good. However, this isn't a regular problem, it's a word problem. They're asking for price. And if somebody asks me what the price we should sell for a CD is, and I say, oh, we should sell it for negative 48 plus the square root of 304 all over a negative 2, that person would look at me like I was crazy. So let's change this into a number that we like since it is a word problem, okay? So let's approximate the square root. Plus or minus the square root is about, and we're looking at money, so I'm going to round it to the nearest cent, which is 1744, all over negative 2. Now once we approximate, we need to complete the problem using both the plus sign and the minus sign. So I could say x equals the negative 48 plus 17.44 all over negative 2, and x is equal to negative 48 minus 17.44 all over negative 2. Negative 48 plus 1744 is going to be negative 30.56 all over negative 2. And when I do that division, we get 15.28. All right, try to get enough room. Over on this side, I'm going to have x equals negative 48 minus 17.44 is negative 65.44 all over negative 2. When I divide that by negative 2, I get 32.72. Comparing my two x's, and what do they tell me? Well, let's refer back to the word problem. After all that work, it says that this is a total profit and the amount that we're going to charge for the CD. And the question actually says, what is the least amount in dollars you can charge for a CD to make a profit? So we're looking for the least amount. Basically, we have these two options. We can sell CDs for $15.28 and make $200, or we can sell them for $32.72 and make $200. Okay. Now, if you're asking yourself, how is that possible? Well, if you charge twice as much for a CD, probably about half as many people are actually going to buy it. If the CD is cheaper, more people will buy it, thus giving us a same profit. Out of these two, it looks like $15.28 is going to be my answer because it's the least amount. Here's one for you to try. If you get stuck or need help, refer to the previous problem and your homework. All right, thank you for stopping by Mr. Davis's math class. This was Algebra 2, Lesson 4-7, the quadratic formula.